Well, thank you to everybody for joining us today for this session of the AgrAbility webinar series. Today we're going to be talking about maximizing employment with supplementing with Social Security benefits, and our speaker today is Kelly Land. I'll give a little introduction of her in just a minute. My name is Paul Jones. For those that don't know me, I am the manager of the National AgrAbility Project, which is located here at Purdue University. Before we get started with the actual presentation, I just have a few basic instructions. You should be able to access audio through either your computer or through a phone connection. And you may check your audio through the audio or communicate menu on the top left of your screen. For those that need captioning, you should go to the media viewer on the far bottom right of your screen and expand that window. You may need to enter some information in terms of your name and organization, but once you click submit, you should be able to see captions running. For all those windows or pods on the right side of your screen, you can expand or contract those. And you can also expand or contract the size of that right-hand column by dragging along the border. If you do have questions about the presentation, we ask that you use the chat option on the bottom right, and you should see that in blue at the top of your screen. You can enter a question or comment into the chat window and make sure you submit that, click send, and we ask that you send that to all panelists instead of to specific individuals. We also ask that you do not use the Q&A option, which is a different window, but instead use the chat option, please. Also, at the end of our presentation, if you have questions, there is a raise hand icon. Should appear next to your name, and you can click on that, and we will do our best to enable your phone or microphone, and you can ask your question verbally. At the end of our presentation and right before the question and answer period, we do have 4 quick survey questions. We'd appreciate your response on those. They'll appear on your screen, and you just click on the appropriate response and submit it to us. The session is being recorded and will be archived on the agrability.org website under online training. If you have any problems in terms of technical issues, we ask that you again use the chat option, and if for some reason you're unable to do that, please email me, jonesp@purdue.edu, and that is the same email address that you should have received your webinar instructions through. For those of you who are not familiar with AgrAbility, we are sponsored by the United States Department of Agriculture, and we focus on assisting people in agriculture that have some type of disability or functional limitation. Every one of the AgrAbility projects around the country, and there are 20 of those currently, requires a partnership between the state land-grant university and at least one nonprofit disability services organization. In addition to the state projects, there's one national AgrAbility project, and again, that is housed here at Purdue University in the Breaking New Ground Resource Center. The partners that we have on our national project include Goodwill of the Finger Lakes, APRIL, which is the Association of Programs for Rural Independent Living, and Colorado State University. If you'd like to get more information about AgrAbility, or you'd like to review some of the more than 50 previous webinars that we've done, you can do that on the agrability.org website on online training or any of the resource links. You can also find contact information for all the state projects. So at this point, I'm going to turn things over to our presenter, Kelly Land, and she is the project coordinator for the Center on Community Living and Careers at the Indiana Institute on Disability and Communication, which is located at Indiana University. She's been in the human services field for the last 10 years. She has a bachelor's degree in business and a master's in public affairs with concentration in human resources. She's also certified as a community work incentive coordinator. So at this point, I'm going to deactivate my camera and microphone and turn things over to Kelly, and then I will come back at the end for our question and answer period.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Maximizing Employment while Supplementing with Social Security Benefits. It's great to be your presenter today. We're going to first talk about an introduction of why this is so important. Many Social Security beneficiaries, they fear that paid employment will cause loss of critical cash benefits or health insurance. We actually find in our industry that people are more worried about their health insurance. And so it's very important that we have kind of an effective method to get those benefits or that benefits information out to individuals who are looking to go back to work but may be on Social Security benefits or any other state or federal benefit as well that's helping them. Beneficiaries and advocates supporting beneficiaries must acquire an understanding of Social Security disability programs and other federal public benefits. There are various eligibilities and operational details. All of these are associated with work incentive rules and provisions, and that's what we're going to talk about today. Our ultimate goal is that you feel comfortable to go and work out in the community, as well as having a good understanding of your Social Security benefits and how to maximize both of those as you move forward in your employment. There are two types of Social Security benefits. The first type is Social Security Disability Insurance, and the second is Supplemental Security Income. First, going back to SSDI, it is a disability insurance program. This is a program that you actually pay into. If you look at your paycheck stubs, there is a thing called FICA, F-I-C-A, and that is where you're actually paying into your Social Security disability program or somebody responsible for you, such as a parent or a spouse. If a child is born disabled or becomes disabled before the age of 22 and has a parent who is deceased, disabled, or retired, he or she may receive disabled adult child benefits based on the work record of a parent. If a consumer has worked, he or she may receive SSDI benefits. After 2 years of entitlement to SSDI, you also receive Medicare benefits. Some people may also receive both SSI and SSDI, and these are called dual beneficiaries. When we talk about Supplemental Security Income, or SSI, this is based on a need. It's a need based on your resources as well as your earned income that you're making. Once a child is 18, income of a parent is no longer considered, but the child must meet the medical requirements as an adult in the Social Security Administration system. Supplemental Security Income benefits, they differ depending on a person's living arrangement. The maximum you can get out of SSI is $735 in 2017. This amount normally goes up with the cost of living adjustment that comes out in October every year. This year, that amount actually only went up 3% or 0.03%, so it's not a large increase each year. Individuals who receive SSI benefits automatically receive Medicaid insurance in the state of Indiana. Now, this differs throughout the nation. Some people are 1634 states, which means that you actually get Medicaid insurance with SSI. Some are 509B states, and that means that you actually have separate requirements for SSI as well as Medicaid, and you have to actually apply for those separately. And then some states have different ways that you can get Medicaid. There's only about 8 states or so in the nation that does not fall under a 509 or a 1634 state. And if you have additional questions to that, we can talk about those at the end of the presentation. So let's first dive in a little bit to Social Security disability insurance. As I said, it is Social Security taxes paid on work They're somewhat like an insurance premium. You're basically paying each month into an insurance program in case you become disabled or if something happens to a family member and you then are deceased or retired and need help with them. Benefits are earned by paying Social Security taxes on wages or a net profit from a trade or a business. So if you're self-employed, you are still paying this tax onto your Social Security disability insurance. When a worker retires and collects Social Security benefits, dies, or becomes entitled to SSA benefits, the amount of wages previously taxed determines the eligibility of the amount of payment. You do have to work 10 years prior to receiving SSDI, and that's what they base the tax off of. To determine eligibility of a worker's history earnings, Social Security counts calendar quarters in which minimum amounts of wages were taxed under the Social Security Act. These are called quarters of coverage if you hear Social Security talk about those. There are 3 types of disability benefits. There's disability insurance benefit, or a DIB. This is where an individual is actually paid into their own system and is drawing off their own disability record. Childhood disability benefits, or a CDB. You may also hear these called a DAC, D-A-C, and that's a disabled adult child. And those are payable to disabled adult children of an insured worker who has retired or become disabled or has passed away. The child must have a disabling condition that began prior to the time the child attained the age of 22. And a disabled widower's benefit, a DWB. These are payable to the widow, widower, or surviving divorced spouse of an insured worker. The widow, widower, or surviving divorced spouse must be at least the age of 50 and be found to be disabled before the end of the specified period time called the prescribed period. Now let's talk about the work incentives that go along with SSDI. So Social Security was very cautious in every single program that they offer. So SSDI, SSI, and Medicare, they offer work incentives. They would like people who are disabled to go back to work. And they offer things called work incentives to help people feel more comfortable going back to work on these disability benefits. The first one that they give under SSDI is called a trial work period, or a TWP. Most beneficiaries are entitled to 9 months of a trial work period. You get your full SSDI benefit during your trial work period, regardless of how much you earn. In 2017, you must earn at least $840 in a month before the month is counted as a trial work period. So that means that if you make under $840 a month, you do not even trigger a trial work period month with Social Security. Once you make over $840 a month, then your trial work period month will begin, and they will track 9 months in a 60-month period. These do not have to be consecutive. This is a rolling 60-month period. So, for example, if you use a trial work period month in 2010 and you have not used any other months since 2010, those months will begin to roll off as long as you have not used all 9 months of your trial work period. Once your trial work period months are used, all 9 months are used in a 60-month rolling period, then you have used up that trial work period month on that Social Security record, and you will no longer be able to use trial work period months. In general, I would like for you guys to know that you can work as much as you want for the first 9 months and make as much money as you'd like for the first 9 months of going back to work, and it will not affect your Social Security disability insurance. So what happens after the trial work period? It depends on whether or not you're working at a level that Social Security calls a substantial gainful activity, or SGA. Each year, Social Security uses earning guidelines when they're deciding whether or not you are earning substantial gainful activity. In 2017, the SGA guideline is $1,170 in gross monthly earnings. That also goes up every year with the cost of living adjustment. After your trial work period months and after Social Security has seen if you are working at an SGA level of $1,170, you automatically go into an extended period of eligibility. This extended period of eligibility happens regardless if you are working or not. It begins directly the month after your trial work period month, and it lasts for 36 months. The beneficiary must continue to have a disabling impairment to access the extended period of eligibility. Work incentives are a way for Social Security to encourage work activity by limiting the impact of work on benefits. There are some other work incentives we have not talked about. So far we've talked about the trial work period, SGA, and EPE, the extended period of eligibility that begins after your trial work period time. The other ones we're going to talk about is a grace period, a subsidy special condition, and impairment work-related expense. So let's start with the grace period. Social Security is looking for a pattern during the grace period. They are looking to see if you are working over SGA for 3 months and there's a pattern. If you are only doing it maybe 1 month, that's not going to trigger a grace period, and you will possibly continue your SSDI benefits as long as they don't see a pattern of you working over SGA, that $1,170 per month. There's also subsidies and special conditions. SSA recognizes that sometimes a person's disability results in the need for extra assistance, a reduced production rate or frequent breaks, fewer job duties than coworkers in a similar job, or accommodations. This is really important for people that have a disability. Sometimes we can do a job just like the next person, but we may need an accommodation. A good example of this would be if you were working for someone and you needed a stool and the employer bought a stool for you. That would become an employer subsidy, and you could take that amount that the stool cost and take that off of your gross earnings. So if you earned $1,170 in 1 month and the stool cost $30, minusing that from the $1,170, your gross earnings that Social Security is going to track is $1,140. Sorry, I'm not very good at math. And $40, and then you would be still eligible for your SSDI check that month. That is just one example. There are many, many more examples that you could be receiving assistance for reducing your production rate, frequent breaks, or fewer job duties. Another work incentive is called an impairment-related work expense. This is when the beneficiary is paying for something out of pocket that relates to their disability and work. An example of this is medication expenses or transportation cost. The transportation cost does have to be due to your disability. For example, due to an intellectual developmental disability, you are not able to pass the driver's test. So you may be able to qualify for an impairment-related work expense if you have to take a public transportation to work. Now today, I know that self-employment is very important for the people on the call. You may be looking at doing a self-employment business through farming or other agricultural businesses. And so there are 2 self-employment work incentives that fall under Social Security disability insurance beneficiaries. And those are called unincurred business expenses or unpaid help. First, the unincurred business expense, that is if there is a business support given to you at no cost. For example, vocational rehabilitation is paying for a service or equipment that you need for your self-employment. The cost of this support is deducted from your net earnings in determining when you have reached substantial gainful activity, or SGA. Unpaid help. If you receive help from friends, relatives, professionals, or others performing a business-related task, and they are not paid for this assistance, the fair labor cost of this assistance is deducted from your net earnings in determining whether you have engaged in substantial gainful activity, or SGA. An example of an unincurred business expense may be, as we said, vocational rehabilitation pays for a service. An example of an unpaid help may be if you have a family member that is helping you with your accounting for your business. Another example is I had a gentleman who had a horse farm, and he was not able to do any of the labor on the horse farm. So, for example, if a hole happened in a fence and it had to be fixed so that the horses were not able to get out of the fence, he actually had nephews that would come and fix the fence for him, and that was absolutely free. But we were allowed to consider that an unpaid help, and that amount that he would have paid his nephews or someone else to come in and fix the fence for him was deducted from his gross earned earnings at the end of each month, and therefore he was earning under SGA in Social Security Administration's their eyes when they're looking at if he is going to receive his SSDI check or not for the month. So you may ask yourself, what if I have to stop working after I use all these incentives and my business is up and off the ground running? If you have to stop working or you have to quit working your self-employment business, and you have the same disability, so let's say you have to stop working due to your disability, you can ask Social Security to restart your benefits without having to file a whole new application. You must make this request within 5 years of the month in which your SSDI benefits were terminated. Remember, that says terminated, so you have to be out of your extended period of eligibility, that 36-month eligibility that starts after your trial work period. So you are no longer receiving your check after your EPE, and you are now terminated from the SSDI system. However, you now have a disability-related, you now have something related to your disability that is causing you to stop work or reduce your hours. You can request an EXR, an expedient reinstatement of benefits. Social Security will pay you provisional benefits for up to 6 months while they make their decision. After this 5-year period, let's say you're out of that 5-year period, and you no longer can request an EXR, or an expedient reinstatement of benefits, you can still always file a new application. So the easy part of the EXR is that it is a quicker application, and you do get 6 months of provisional benefits while Social Security is making their decision if you now should receive SSDI benefits again. So along with SSDI, once you are receiving an SSDI check for 24 months, you are then eligible for Medicare. Medicare is our country's health insurance program for people age 65 or older, certain people with disabilities who are under the age of 65, and people of any age who have permanent kidney failure. It provides basic protection against the cost of health care, but it does not cover all medical expenses or the cost of most long-term care. The Medicare program is financed by a portion of the Federal Insurance Contribution Act, that FICA that we talked about earlier. It's taxes paid by workers and their employers. It is also financed in part by monthly premiums paid by beneficiaries. Social Security Administration determines who is eligible for Medicare, enrolls people in the program, and disseminates general Medicare information. Once you have been receiving SSDI for 24 months, you are then eligible for Medicare insurance. You will receive some information in the mail about the Medicare insurance when you start becoming eligible, and they will discuss with you what parts of Medicare you are eligible for. There are different parts of Medicare. Medicare Part A, also known as hospital insurance or HI, helps pay for care in a hospital and skilled nursing facilities, home health care, and hospice care. Medicare Part A is also free to Medicare individuals. Medicare Part B, also known as Supplemental Medicare Insurance or SMI, helps pay for doctors, outpatient hospital care, and other medical services. Anyone who is eligible for premium-free Medicare hospital insurance Part A can also enroll in Medicare Supplemental Medical Insurance Part B by paying a monthly premium. Medicare Part D is prescription coverage. As I said, every part of the Social Security Administration has a work incentive tied to it. So with SSDI, we had trial work period, EPE, and some additional work incentives. With Medicare, there's also called the extended period of Medicare coverage. Providing that the disabling condition continues, individuals who lose cash payments, so you're no longer receiving an SSDI check due to substantial gainful activity, will remain to have their free Medicare Part A and premium-based Medicare Part B coverage for at least 93 months after the end of their trial work period. Exactly when the extended Medicare coverage begins and ends is determined when you consistently are reaching the SGA or substantial gainful activity amount. Social Security makes this determination, so it's important that when you've used up your trial work period months, you contact SSA, Social Security Administration, and ask them how long you have on your extended period of Medicare coverage. We are now done with the SSDI portion. I know these things are very confusing. Please do not hesitate to ask questions as we move forward. We're now going to talk about understanding the SSI program. Supplemental Security Income, often referred to as SSI, is another disability benefits program managed by the Social Security Administration. SSI is very different from the benefits paid under Title II or Social Security Disability Insurance. SSI is a benefit paid to people who are disabled, blind, or age 50 or older who have few resources and low income, and who meet certain citizenship or residential requirements. The funds used to pay SSI benefits do not come from the Social Security Trust Fund. People have not paid into this system. They are paid out of a general federal tax dollar. SSI Benefits and Work. Most people receive a smaller SSI payment when they begin to work. Remember, the SSI is called Supplemental Security Income. It is supplementing your working income. Some whose earnings are high may not receive an SSI cash payment at all. However, since SSI counts less than half of a person's gross monthly wages when they are calculating a person's SSI benefit, nearly everyone has more money when they work than they would have if they remained on SSI benefits alone. Remember that the federal benefit rate, or FBR, is only $735 for an individual or $1,103 for a couple that is both receiving SSI. The Social Security Administration counts an individual's or SSI-eligible couple's income on a monthly basis. So they're going to look at your income on a monthly basis if you are working a typical job with an employer. We are going to talk about later how it is different with self-employment, how Social Security determines your wages. The federal benefit rate is a monthly amount that usually changes in January each year, as we talked about earlier, with the cost of living adjustment. How does Social Security calculate your SSI payment? When Social Security is deciding how much SSI a person should receive, they look at other income a person may have. This will include, or can include, unearned income. So that would be maybe unemployment insurance, or child support, or SSDI. When they are looking at child support, they are looking at who this child support is coming to. So if it is coming specifically to a child and not the parent, the child support will not go against the parent. But if it is back pay that is coming to the parent, it will be counted as the parent's income. They also look at your earned income. So they are not only looking at your unearned income, they're also looking at your earned income, which is wages from work or income from self-employment. When they calculate a person's SSI payment, they exclude or do not count the first $20 of a person's unearned income. This is called the general income exclusion. They also exclude the first $65 and half of the remainder of the person's earned income. This is called an earned income exclusion. If a person has very little or no unearned income, they add the $20 of the general income exclusion to the $65 earned income exclusion before dividing by 2. That is where many people say that they cannot work more than $85 a month before their SSI is affected. And they are correct, but the $20 and the $65 are actually two separate exclusions that SSI gives an individual. This is a chart on this screen. It is called the Countable Income Formula Worksheet, and it pertains to SSI beneficiaries. We will not talk a lot about this, but I want you guys to know that Social Security does put somebody through a countable income formula each month, and they look at their gross earned income, and then they subtract work incentives that we're going to talk about moving forward to come up with their actual SSI check that they are going to receive that month. The first work incentive that we're going to talk about with SSI is called an impairment-related work expense. We talked about this earlier in SSDI. It is also important to know that you can use an impairment-related work expense in SSDI and in SSI if you're a dual beneficiary recipient. Some individuals may have out-of-pocket expenses for items or services they need in order to work, such as medication, medical equipment, or etc. Social Security may subtract these expenses from gross wages after the $85 is deducted. This results in a lower countable earned income, which results in a higher SSI payment. You must show Social Security Administration your receipts for these items, and SSA must approve them. Examples can include your co-payments for medications, medical equipment, doctor's visits, counseling, physical, occupational, or speech therapies, medical supplies, or special transportation costs. The 5 criteria you must meet for something to be an IRWI, or an impairment-related work expense, is it has to be related to your disability, necessary for work, paid out of your own pocket, a reasonable expense, and paid in the month earnings were received. Let's do an example of an impairment-related work expense. The example says, Leonard, diagnosed with an intellectual developmental disability or an IDD disability, works with the leopards at the zoo. He makes $10 an hour and works 25 hours a week. He has to buy a bus pass each month for his transportation. The bus pass is $45. He could not pass the driver's test. He pays $200 a month for his medications. He is an SSI recipient and is worried he may lose his SSI benefits. Show him on the countable income formula how he is better off financially if he continues to work. Here's an example of how an IRWI would work on the countable income formula. He has $10 an hour at $25 an hour at 25 hours a week times 4.3 weeks. Social Security times this uses 4.3 weeks due to some months have 4 weeks and some months have 5 weeks. This gives Leonard a total of $1,075 a month with a $245 IRWI. If we go through the countable income formula as you see on your screen, in step 1, he has no unearned income. So we go down to step 2. He has gross earned income of $1,075. He has no student earned income that we know of, so we subtract the earned income exclusion of $65 and the general income exclusion from his unearned income he did not use of $20, and we get the remainder of $990. We then subtract the impairment-related work expenses of $245. This leaves us with $745. Social Security will then divide that $745 by 2, and his remainder is $372.50. As far as we know, Leonard is not blind, so we will continue down to step 3. His total countable unearned income is $372.50. I'm sorry, his total countable unearned is 0. His total countable earned is $372.50. His countable income is $372.50. He has no past deduction at this time. So Social Security is only going to count $372.50 of Leonard's $1,075 countable income. His base rate of SSI is $735 minus any deductions he has. We then minus his $372.50, so his new SSI check is $362.50. That sounds like a low amount from $735 he was receiving each month. But let's go to our before and after work illustration. His unearned income was 0. His gross earned income that he is still receiving each month is $1,075. His new SSI payment is $362.50. That gives him a total income from all of his sources each month, $1,437.50. Remember, he still has to pay for those IRWIs out of pocket. So we're going to go ahead and subtract that $245 that he already paid out of pocket. So his total monthly income is $1,187.50. This is more than $735 a month. So Leonard is better off working, earning more income by working, even though his SSI payment went down. That was just one example. There are many other work incentives. Another one that we're going to talk about is called a blind work expense. Social Security has a special rule for people who are statutory blind. Instead of deducting only impairment-related work expenses, Social Security will deduct all expenses a blind person has due to work. Some examples of these are state and federal taxes, union dues, uniforms, driver services, child care, cost of service animals, transportation, or reader services. And this is a very small list of what could count as a blind work expense. We'll show one quick example, again, of the countable income formula chart and where blind work expense falls. If you see, it falls under the impairment-related work expense and after the dividing by 2, which means a person who has a blind work expense is able to expense or count all of their blind work expense amount instead of only half like an impairment-related work expense. One last and final very important work expense that can be deducted from the countable income formula chart is called a plan to achieve self-supports. This is very important for people that are wanting to go back to school or start their own self-employment business. A plan to achieve self-supports, or a PASS, is a work incentive that allows a person with a disability to set aside income or resources for a specified period of time in order to pay for items or services needed to achieve a specific work goal. Under an approved plan to achieve self-supports or a PASS, an individual may set aside income or resources to pay for education or training, job coaching, or other support services, including transportation, job-related items, equipment needed to start a business, or just about anything else needed to achieve an occupational goal. Income and/or resources set aside in a PASS are not counted when determining SSI eligibility and when determining the amount of SSI payment an eligible individual is due. A person whose income or resources are too high to qualify for SSI may develop a PASS to set aside excess income and/or resources to use in their work goal, thus establishing initial SSI eligibility. Sorry, I just want to go back to a PASS real quick. This is very important for people that are on SSI and do not feel that they have the income to start their own business. If they are working and they are receiving SSI, you can set aside some of your SSI payment or some of your working income aside into an account to save money to either go back to school or start your business, and it will not count against you. I had a student who was saving money to go to college and was able to pay for all their college through a PASS and still receive their SSI payments and work, and was able to get their associate's degree all through a PASS. There are also PASS cadres across the country that can help you develop a plan to achieve self-supports. Another very important, this is not a work incentive that comes off of your countable income formula, but it is a work incentive to help people who have very expensive equipment for their business, such as a farmer who may have tractors and other equipment that is extremely expensive and can be considered a resource under SSI. It's called a Property Essential to Self-Supports, or a PES. A PES is a Social Security provision that lets you exclude counting certain properties, resources necessary for your self-support when calculating your SSI benefits. How the PES works. Social Security will not count some of the following property when calculating your monthly SSI benefit amount: the full value of tools or equipment used for trade or business. For example, carpenter tools, mechanical tools, computers, wheelchairs, or inventory used for a trade or business. Certain amounts of value of non-business properties that are used to produce goods, as an example, land used to produce vegetables or livestock solely for consumption by the individual's own household. Some amounts of non-business income-producing properties, provided that the property yields a profit. So if you are a farmer and you're producing a profit off of your land, or you have expensive equipment, this can be considered a property essential to self-support, or a PES. We are now done with SSI, and I know that's very confusing, so please, again, do not forget to ask questions if you have additional concerns. I do want to touch base quickly before we get to questions on self-employment. Self-employment, when calculating your earnings from self-employment, the Social Security Administration, SSA, counts net earnings from self-employment. This is called an NESE. This is your gross receipts minus your business expenses multiplied by 0.9235. This way, a portion of your net earnings are counted in determining your income from self-employment. Again, an example would be your gross receipts or profits that you make minus any expenses times 0.9235. This equals your NESE, and that is what Social Security will count as your net earnings per month. Now for SSDI, self-employment work incentives, let's say they're different. Some things are different, some are the same. For an example, there's still a trial work period under self-employment. A trial work period month is counted when your NESE is over $840 in the year 2017, or when you work 80 hours per month in a self-employment venture. And I know that self-employment takes a lot of work, so you have to be careful with that 80 hours that you're communicating that to Social Security. There is still an extended period of eligibility. Social Security will average your NESE over a period of work activity to determine whether you are earning SGA, that $1,170 per month in 2017. Social Security considers market conditions, investments, and services of others who help you, as well as your profit distribution. They also have impairment-related work expenses. And as we talked about earlier, the unincurred business expense and unpaid help is also a self-employment work incentive under SSDI. SSI Self-Employment. There are some work incentives under SSI as well. SSA will continue to work with you to project your average earnings. So as we talked about earlier, with SSI, when you have typical earnings from an employer, they're going to look at your SSI monthly. However, a big change under self-employment is they are going to look at your average of earnings. Your monthly SSI check will be adjusted based on what you and SSA, or Social Security Administration, projected your annual NESE amount would be. So they are taking that off of your business plan and what your annual NESE is. It is very important to get a good estimate of what you expect your annual earnings to be from your NESE, because SSA will retroactively adjust your SSI check over the entire calendar year. If you have an inaccurate projection, you may incur an overpayment or an underpayment in your SSI check. All the other work incentives that we talked about, the impairment work-related expense, the blind work expense, and the PASS, are still work incentives that can apply even under a self-employment. If you see that you think that your projections are maybe a little off of your annual NESE, you can always contact Social Security and ask them to adjust your NESE amount based on your projections changing. I think it's also important for us to talk a little bit about asset development. Unfortunately, some people believe that if they're on SSDI or SSI or any other federal government benefits, they are not able to save money. And I want you to know that that is not true. There are some programs out there for you. There are many programs. However, today I'm going to talk to you about an individual development account, an IDA, and an Achieving a Better Life Experience account, or an ABLE. First, let's talk about an IDA. This is a 4-year match. It's a matched savings program designed to assist individuals in achieving self-sufficiency through financial literacy and asset generation. You can use your IDA, a combined IDA savings, to buy or rehab a home, further your education or enroll in job training programs, start or expand a small business, and new this year, depending on what state you're in, you can also use it to purchase a vehicle. An Achieving a Better Life Experience account offers individuals with disabilities the opportunity to save money for qualified disability expenses without losing their eligibility for Medicaid and Social Security benefits. Accrued interest would receive tax advantages similar to that received by a 529 account. 529s are accounts that parents or family members can set up for their children to go to college. An ABLE account is now very similar to that, and it's for parents or individuals to set these up on their own to help with disability expenses. Qualified expenses may be assistive technology, education, employment training and supports, health care, housing, or transportation cost. So what is your responsibility to Social Security when you work? You have a very large responsibility. You must keep your local Social Security office informed of your work activity and earnings. This is most easily done by calling or by sending them copies of your paycheck stubs and your impairment-related work expenses or your blind work expenses. You can send them those by sending them your receipts each month. You may also choose to visit your local office with this information. Usually at your local Social Security offices, they will have pre-postaged envelopes that you can grab and send in these receipts and your paycheck stubs each month. I would recommend that you send copies of these and not your originals so that you can always make sure that you have extra copies at home in case for some reason Social Security would misplace your information. Failure to do any of these can result in an overpayment. If you receive SSI benefits, you should also tell Social Security about changes in your living arrangements, marital status, and student status. Also keep the Division of Family Resources, or your DFR office, informed on your work activity. These are usually the offices that take care of your Medicaid and your food stamps. If you're receiving housing assistance, you will also want to keep your local HUD office informed on any changes as well. It has been my pleasure to talk with you. I will now change this over to Paul, and he is going to ask you those few polling questions while we talk about questions, or while we wait for our questions to be asked.
Well, Kelly, thank you for a webinar packed full of useful information to both the people we work with and the professionals that are working with people with disabilities. So as we indicated, we will have a question and answer period, and you may either type your questions in the chat window and click send, or raise your hand and we'll do our best to unmute your microphone. Now, some of you may have very specific questions about your particular situations, and Kelly may not be able to answer those, but hopefully she'll be able to provide some resources in terms of where you could look in your local community to get those specific questions answered. At this time, I want to do our 4 quick poll questions, and so I will open our first one that basically just asks your affiliation. Are you working with AgrAbility or another group? Are you a farmer, rancher? So I will open that. And we do need you to make sure to click the submit button. You need to choose the proper radio button on the side, and then make sure you hit submit so that we can receive your responses. We'll give you just a couple more seconds on that one. And WebEx is requiring me to wait for a little bit, so you get a little reprieve here. And our next question, just to let you know, we'll be asking your feedback in terms of the information that was shared today. So as soon as this one closes itself, are you able to see those results? Okay, results are on the screen for that one. So we need to save our results quickly. All right, our next question asks about the information that was presented today. And so the responses should be on your screen. Again, we will be archiving this recording and putting it on our website. I know there's a lot of facts you may want to refer to in the future. I think it'll be a great resource for AgrAbility staff members to go back to, or future staff members to refer to. So just a very comprehensive view of this complex topic. A couple more seconds here. I'll try to close it. Okay. Just a few more seconds here. The program is a little temperamental. Sometimes it closes the polls immediately, and sometimes it gives you another 20 seconds. So I'm never sure what it's going to do. And I try to do it one way, and it doesn't seem to cooperate with me. And hopefully you can see results on that one. You see results? No? Okay. Well, I will have to close this one, and then we'll open the next one. The next question is going to ask about the technology today. Apart from my temperamental polling timer, hopefully you were able to use the technology well, but let us know. Was the technology effective and usable today? If you had any specific issues, we ask that you would note that in the chat window also, so that we can try to remedy those in the future. Also, if you happen to have more than one person viewing at your site or your computer, if you could let us know that. Sometimes we only get one person's name, but there are possibly 2 or 3 or 10 people looking at the same site. So it helps us to be able to accurately report our attendance. If you could let us know through the chat window if you had more than one person viewing per login. Okay, a couple more seconds and I'll try closing again. Okay, that time it closed it immediately, so I don't know what I'm doing differently. And try to show you the results. I guess that time it came through okay. All right, and our last question. It's going to ask you if based on today's session you would attend another session in this series. So, here we go. You could let us know your feedback on that final question. Again, I think we do have some chat questions coming up. We're right at the end of our hour, but please stick around. If you'd like to hear the questions, appreciate that. A few more seconds on this poll. And I will attempt to close it. Okay, looks like it closed it immediately that time. And you're able to see the results of the screen there. All right. This time I'm going to turn things back over to Sean Ehlers, who is our technical assistance person here on the webinar today. And then we'll allow him to show the questions on the screen. I will pass him the presenter's ball. And then I will close my microphone and camera and allow Kelly to come back on for questions.
Hi. It looks like the first question then is, if VR purchase is a piece of equipment, is that considered an unearned or an unincurred business expense, or does such an expense have to be a service? No, a piece of equipment is exactly a good example. So yes, if they purchase a piece of equipment, then that can be considered a unincurred business expense on your SSI benefit. You would just need to talk to your Social Security Administration about that. If the equipment is extremely expensive, they may actually divide it up across several months so that you don't have one huge expense, unincurred business expense 1 month. They may actually extend it across multiple. And I'm sorry, I said SSI earlier, and I meant SSDI expense. I hope that answers your question. Question 2, who should people turn to if they have specific questions about their situation? Are there resource people in every state? There are. Each state is completely different. I would suggest your first thing to do would be to look for your CWIC, or your coordinator of work incentives. That's not right. Your work incentive coordinator, community work incentive coordinator. Every state does have a WIPA program, which is a work incentive program assistance, and under that are CWIC. So as you heard Paul say earlier, I was a certified CWIC, or Community Work Incentive Coordinator. So I would Google WIPA, W-I-P-A, for your state and look at who to first contact. You can also always contact the National Ticket to Work line. If you continue to have issues to find out who's in your exact state, you can message me or message Paul, and we can find out in your state who is your contact person to help you. In addition, some states have vocational rehabilitation, and they help offer benefits assistance. For example, in the state of Indiana, we actually, through VR, can help you with benefits assistance as well. Question 3, how is Part B premiums determined? So they're determined every year. They usually also come out with that cost of living adjustment that I spoke about. For many, many years, I would say before 2015 and earlier, usually your Part B premium was around $104.80. In 2016, those amounts went up to $121.80 if you were eligible in 2016. If you were eligible prior to 2016, your amount stayed $104.80. And then in 2017, if you become eligible for Part B premiums, you will then pay $134 in 2017 and moving forward. So it does look like that amount is going up each month. However, in some states, you might qualify for Medicaid to pay that premium for you. So you may not have Medicaid insurance, but your Medicaid insurance may pay that premium. And I highly suggest that if you're currently paying for that premium, it does not hurt to go ahead and apply for Medicaid and see if they will help you pay for that premium. Question 4. If a farmer with a disability wants to purchase a new tractor, can they person use a pass plan for such? Of course you can. If that is your actual employment, that's your vocational or occupational goal, and you have a set business plan for that, then yes, a pass plan would be perfect for you to set income aside as long as you're working and you're on SSI, so you're working and you're on SSI, you can save money aside in a pass plan for you to be able to purchase a new tractor to help expand your small business. You also could look into an IDA, that an individual development account, which was the state matched dollars as well. Question 5, what is the gross earnings limit per month for an individual who is blind? I'm going to assume on this we're talking about SSDI, and there is a higher statutory blind amount, and thank you for pointing that out. The amount for 2017 is $1,950. Again, that's for 2017. $1,950 is a substantial gainful activity for someone that is statutory blind under SSA requirements. Question 6. How does SSDI interact with private pay long-term disability insurance? This is a very good question. I would refer you back to your state CWIC because these do change state by state, and it also changes depending on what your disability insurance stated at your employer. Most of the time in general, what we see is that your SSDI amount, so let's say your amount is supposed to be $2,000 and your long-term disability insurance is paying $1,000, then your SSDI amount will be $1,000. So whatever your max SSDI amount is, the long-term disability insurance amount will be minused from that SSDI check. That is a generality, though, so please do not apply that to every situation. I would, again, like I said, go back to your actual employer private pay long-term disability manual, look at what it says specifically, and then also talk to your Social Security Administration about how that's going to work. You also can contact your state's WIPA, Work Incentive Planning Assistance Program, and they can help you answer that question as well. And those are all absolutely free services for you. Question 7, is there a handout for all this information? Well, thank you for saying it's a wonderful resource. There is on the last slide, or if you guys also got the PDF of the slides, I have my email address as well as a web address, and that web address will allow you to access the Center on Community Living and Careers website through IU. Then we have a Benefits Information Network tab. On that tab, you will find our trainings, but you will also find our fact sheets. It will say Benefits Information Network fact sheets for 2017, and it has a fact sheet from the Social Security Administration. We take their information and design a fact sheet off of it for every single work incentive that we talked about today. Question 8, how do we find the archived webinars? I'm going to go ahead and let Paul answer that. I believe he said it was on a website, but I'm sure as soon as the ball gets passed back to him, he can answer that question.
Okay, thank you. Yes, again, if you go to the agrability.org website, you're getting volume? Okay. And go to the main menu, look under Online Training. It's on the main menu on the left side of the screen, and go to Online Training. You'll see a link to archived webinars. I hope to have that up by the end of the week. We do have to process the video file, so it could possibly be next week when that goes up, but also the PowerPoint will be available separately from the video if you would like to look at that. So, yes, we hope you'll take advantage of that. And again, thank you, Kelly, for just a great presentation full of very useful, practical information that people can access. I would mention one other thing. Our next webinars are actually part of a web conference, the AgrAbility Virtual National Training Workshop. We have this annually, and it's for 3 days, 2 webinars per day, for a total of 6 webinars. And the dates for that are February 21st, 22nd, and 23rd. And I will read just quickly our topics. For that, we'll have an update from our USDA project leader at the National Institute for Food and Agriculture. Will be one session. Another one will be Farm Hands, maximizing hand health for the workplace, dealing with hands and ergonomic issues. Resources for veteran farmers and ranchers, those that are military veterans. Assistive technology to prevent secondary injury in aging farmers. The other is Getting to the Bottom, AgrAbility's discussion on seating issues in agricultural machineries, particularly for those that have paralysis. That can be definitely an issue in terms of getting the proper seating for some of the heavy equipment. And then finally, a session on the Farm Service Agency's loan programs can be useful to anybody involved in agriculture. So since you participated in this session, you will be on the list to get information about that, and I hope to have that out at least by next week in terms of registering for that. So thank you again for participating today, those that attended, and again, Kelly, thank you very much. And we wish you all a good day.